good to tell that story.
Hurricane Maria slamming into the island, and as you heard, one official saying the island is destroyed.
There are so many people without food or water or enough supplies, and there's so much destruction here.
And this is the scene in Puerto Rico right now. A powerful Category 4 storm Maria is hitting with 155-mile-an-hour winds, torrential rain, the strongest storm this island has faced in nearly a century.
About 3 years ago, my wife and I were planning a vacation to see her parents in Puerto Rico, and we were searching for pregnancy centers online because we've always in our marriage worked with pregnancy centers. Here in Tampa, we worked with a woman's place, and we found out there was no pregnancy centers in Puerto Rico. We approached a woman's place. At that time, Andy Layton was over the ministry, and he said, we told him, why don't you go start a pregnancy center in Puerto Rico? And he said, why don't you go start a pregnancy center in Puerto Rico? And that started a whole just train we didn't expect to be on. So a few months later, started a nonprofit. A few months later, started raising support. Within 6 months, we had support to go, and we moved to Puerto Rico, sold our house. That's a whole other story, but sold our house here and moved to Puerto Rico. And within 4 months, we had a pregnancy center open. So it's been open for about 1.5 years now, and seeing lots of clients, and we've been loving it. God's just been providing the funds for it. And then Maria happened. And when Maria happened, the island was totally devastated, and we were looking at this situation, and we decided to take it from just being a pregnancy center to adding another arm of relief work. And so for the last it's a month now, we have been engaged in relief work and a pregnancy center on the island. We left the island right before Maria because God had provided a flight for us to get out for my family. I came back 4 days after Maria and just looked, and I saw what was happening, and I saw all the churches were scrambling and just doing things for themselves, and I thought, we are a parachurch ministry. We exist as a parachurch ministry in Puerto Rico. Why don't we raise the support, gather the supplies, and provide the churches with the needs so they can in turn reach the people and share Christ with the people in their community, in their church, and it'll be a greater effect because it's not just my staff of a parachurch ministry of a pregnancy center, it's the staff of that church, their members, and everyone else going out into the community, distributing food, distributing water, will have a greater impact for the gospel. You can tell you story after story after story. There's one, it was not necessarily through the churches, it was through us trying to find a church in a hard-hit town called Jayuya. We went to this town looking for a church, and we talked to the community, gave some food, and then they told us, hey, there's this other church over here on the top of the hill. The pastor lost his home. He's staying in the church. We went there. The pastor wasn't there, so we went behind the church. There was a couple houses down there. We stopped at the first house, and there was 3 ladies in there, a mom and her 2 daughters, a 17-year-old and a 10-year-old. And when we started talking to them, and they're just sharing their struggles, they have a huge tarp on their roof because they lost part of their roof, and it's just the 3 of them. And then as we're talking, I see the 17-year-old has a 2-year-old son, and he comes out. I start playing with them, hanging out with them. It was just so fun. I missed my kids. I was like, this is great. And I told them, my director of distribution, Carmelo, I said, hey, why don't we leave the food with them? And when the pastor comes, we'll tell them to give it. And he's like, okay, that's great. So we give them 15 boxes of MREs, meals that are ready to eat, like 10 cases of water, a bunch of supplies, and say, hey, when the pastor comes, and they're like, yeah, we'll give it to him when he comes. So we pray for them, and we're getting ready to leave. The pastor drives up, and we're like, oh, great, the pastor's here. So Carmelo starts talking to the pastor and explaining everything to him. And as he's explaining things to him, the girls start bringing all the stuff out and lay it at his feet, next to him. And I'm like, what? Because they didn't ask for anything at this moment. They just brought everything out. And I'm like, what is going on? They're not asking for it. They said they don't go to church when we were talking to them, and they weren't Christians and stuff. So I go to my car, and I had some more stuff. So I brought them the food. I put it down with them. I said, hey, here's some more food for you guys. This is just, thank you so much for doing this. And then I said, do you guys have water? And the 17-year-old goes in her house, opens up her little cooler, and gets out a bottle of water and gives it to me. And I'm like, no, I don't want your water. I'm asking you if you have water. And she said, oh, sorry. Yes, we only have 4 bottles left. And I'm like, you only have 4 bottles and you're giving me your water? What? And I go back to my car and I get her a 40-pack of water out that I bought from Sam's. I'm like, here, this is for you. And you know, after that, the pastor's praying with us. We pray with the pastor with them. And I cheat and I look up and I see the 17-year-old. She's in tears. And so this is just the cool things that God's doing.